comes down to figuring out for sure what we actually want to pursue more than finding things that are out there and deciding whether or not we want them.
Okay. So actually, I'm glad you brought up the whole vendor piece. Now, Rich, do you guys do a lot with vendor selection at all? I mean, because we talked to Kathleen Sullivan, and they have shifted a lot of their collection development over to vendor selection.
Well, it's interesting. When we went over to the county, actually, I think we modeled on Maricopa County's contract with Baker and Taylor. So in a way, at this point in time, we are legally bound with pretty much one vendor for a good percentage of our materials. What we've been able to do, though, is write RFPs for, like I said, other bookstores that might, carry materials that are not found in Baker and Taylor, which isn't that many, but there is local authors and stuff that's a little harder to get. So we can use other vendors, and we do have. I should say also we have for our audio collection, we have several other vendors that we use, but we're still. I mean, we at this point we work with the vendors, but we're still doing the selection, pretty much. They do give us outlines of materials and like this is the best sellers for certain things. I mean, obviously we want the best sellers, so we get those automatically through our plans with some of the audiobook vendors. And even with Baker and Taylor, they'll send us carts of that, but we still do pretty much the selection ourselves.
We have a few plans, I think, for the digital books.
Oh yeah, and digital books too, with several different vendors we do. And we've actually, because we get like the top 3, and then we do our own selection too. We do, it's kind of like a combo. I mean, I think that's what, for certain things, obviously, why rewrite the wheel, or not
reinvent the wheel.
Reinvent the wheel. Okay, I'm writing books and all that. But other things, it still comes down to meeting the needs of our staff and our clientele. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
yeah, no, I mean that's fine. And just trying to show that collection development, it's not such a black and white. It's like collection development, boom, every place looks the same. That there's a huge range of each organization will do it various ways.
Yeah, one size I don't think fits all.
Right, and there's not really a right or a wrong answer. It's just what your organization or institution then does.
Correct.
And so, can you talk a little bit about the acquisition process or even the processing materials? Like some libraries, they arrive drop shipped to the branch, ready to check in, put on the shelf.
They do at our library too. With especially with Baker and Taylor, we get about 90% of the materials from them drop shipped to the branches. They're shelf ready, and it makes it very convenient. Especially our acquisitions department and tech services department is quite a bit smaller than it was in the past. But for other materials, like even with our audiobooks, they still do come to the tech services department with maybe they'll be semi-processed, but the final processing still takes place in-house, and then we distribute them to the branches. But the vast majority of our books definitely just land at the branches shelf ready.
Yeah, I think the difference is, like for example, DVDs, they'll often put into uniform cases.
Correct.
Some branches will use locks on their DVD cases, despite our protestations. So there are some things where they basically have to come to a central location first, but most of the stuff is directly to the branches.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the databases have to come through our office first, so we can adjust the URLs to point everything through the authentication, our proxy server. So all electronic stuff is handled that way, but since there's nothing really there, the access, once we set up the right URL, it's done.
And it was a learning process too, with both the vendor and on our end, as far as tweaking it to get it better and better. Because I mean, it's going. I mean, it just there's humans involved, so nothing's ever perfect.
Yeah. Got to figure out what to ask for.
Yeah, you got to figure out what to ask for and how to ask for it. So.
So, and then with electronic resources, how do you do any, like, creating access to websites or anything like that? So it's like, I mean, it's like, yes, you'll have EBSCO, things like that, but also, do you provide targeted usage of websites or anything along that lines?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by targeted usage.
Or like recommended websites.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
yes, we do.
We do, but I think, if I can interject, I think that's something that's kind of on its way out.
Well, actually, yes, we just in the last couple of months, we really began to focus on a website selection policy. Prior to that, we sort of used this collection development policy as our guideline, but that doesn't really work when selecting databases selecting websites necessarily. A lot of times we will point or we'll put a link to local resources that aren't necessarily objective, that are there to serve specific communities, where we, with our print materials or a research database, we look explicitly for the broad view. With websites, a lot of times we'll point to what's the word I'm looking for here? There's sort of a slanted perspective,
Yeah,
group that supports immigrants' rights, for example.
And maybe not have something where it's people who are questioning
we might link to a local source that supports immigrant rights, but not a similar website that is opposed to that perspective, because we're serving a particular community. So we just began to work out a policy as to what we are going to link to. And I think, as Rich said, in the long term, the library is, I think, less and less, our website is less and less the source that people turn to find web information. People will just go and Google for what they want in terms of websites now. So we think that's becoming a lesser role, even though we're developing a more specific policy for it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because I think when when the internet first happened, we got to help. And we used to have stuff for blues, and all the different sorts of, well, not every sort of music, but specific music genres.
We put together info guides
Yeah.
with links to our databases and websites on particular subjects, and
And now people don't need it. They're more comfortable just searching by themselves on the internet. They don't need us to tell them where to go to find information about blues. And if they do, they can always either email us or call us up or use us as direct resources as opposed to going through our website. We've, I think it's just an evolutionary process. Now the website's more about us and how in some organizations we work heavily with, but mostly about what's going on at the library and what the library has to offer.
Okay. How do you handle gifts and donations?
Well, we don't really accept a gift. Very rarely, let's say if there's a book there's a whole waiting list of 300 people and somebody gives us a brand new copy of the latest, let's say Jonathan Grisham, or we'll add that as long as it's a pristine collection, in pristine condition. But most 99.9% of the gifts that we receive, we give to our friends, who in turn sell them at their book sale, which in turn...
Friends of the library.
Friends of the library.
Not our
not our personal
friends.
Yes, the Friends of the Pima County Public Library, who are wonderful, who support us through the sales of the materials. That was, in a collection development perspective, it can be a real pain when somebody adds one DVD of Free Willy and we're unable to get it, and the next thing you know, there's 300 people waiting for it.
Free Willy's a very popular title.